It's day 20 of the Israel-Hamas conflict. When is that ground operation going to happen? Will the 200 hostages be brought back? I'm in the heart of Tel Aviv, where families and friends of the hostages have escalated their protest and their message to the political and military leadership for the hostages to be brought back. Over the next hour, all of my ground reports from across Israel to tell you where things actually stand, and they are on tenterhooks with the Israel-Gaza conflict threatening to become a wider West Asian struggle.
Day 20 of Israel-Hamas war. US President drops big bombshell. Hints at bid to sabotage India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Hamas targeting G20 game changer. Iran enters Israel-Hamas battle. Hamas terrorist trained on Iranian soil. Shiv live from the war zone.
President Joe Biden has said that the India-West Asia-Europe economic corridor may have been one of the triggers for what the Hamas did on October the 7th. Now, this goes down to being aligned with many things that have been said on India today of how a normalization of relations between Israel and the larger Arab world may have been a strategic threat to countries like Iran. Here's what President Biden said and what the implications could be for India and beyond.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Massive bombshell by US President Joe Biden, exposing a clear India link to Hamas terror strikes. Biden says he's convinced that the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the immediate trigger for the attack on Israel.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank.
You know, let's face it, the most powerful world leader at this point of time, he's got two big carrier battle groups in the region, principally, because of the rising Iran threat. Let's face it, it's not really just to help Israel. The India-Europe Middle East economic corridor being one of the triggers. I don't know if it's a principal trigger, but one of the many triggers, is not hard to believe. I wouldn't dismiss it.
India's ambitious corridor, a rival of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aims to link India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Europe to Israel's Haifa port. Hamas is dead against Israel's integration and friendship with the Arab world.
The normalization of relations and tensions, especially between Israel and Saudi Arabia, sanctions lifted in part between US and Iran, the India economic corridor becoming a kind of, a sort of layer, almost an affirmation of that normalization process, must have been a strategic risk to countries like Iran that stand to lose, leverage and power in a region. Remember that conflict is power, and Iran has always represented that proverb in a very, very big way.
It was in September when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, flanked by President Biden and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, announced the game-changing India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor.
भारत कनेक्टिविटी को क्षेत्रीय सीमाओं में नहीं मापता। सभी क्षेत्रों के साथ कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाना भारत की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी विभिन्न देशों के बीच आपसी व्यापारी नहीं, आपसी विश्वास भी बढ़ाने का स्रोत है।
Today, I'm proud to announce that we've finalized the historic agreement for a new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. As a key part of this corridor, we're going to invest in ships and rail that extends from India all the way to Europe, connected by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel.
Has the Modi brainchild to revolutionize global business come as a red flag for Hamas? With Shiv Aroor in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Wall Street Journal cites a US intelligence report to suggest that Iran, far from being just a handler of proxies like the Hezbollah and Hamas, actually on its own soil, using its Al-Quds forces, trained and armed Hamas terrorists specifically for what they did on October the 7th. If this is proven to be true, and the US has so far denied anything in this intelligence report and what the Wall Street Journal has reported, if it turns out to be true, it would be for the first time that the prospect of a direct collision between the United States, Israel and Iran could be on the cards. Take a look at this report.
Shocking revelation by US media, indicating a direct role of Iran in executing the terror strike on Israel. As per Wall Street Journal, the Hamas terrorists who attacked Israel on October 7th were trained by Iran's military and the Quds force. Iran even gave Hamas terrorists combat training, and over 500 Hamas terrorists took training in September, a month before the bloodiest attack. As per reports, Iran gave funds to Hamas before the attacks and even helped the terror group with weapons and technology.
That terrorist meeting between the Hezbollah chief along with the deputy leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Hamas in Beirut, the fact that Israel continues to conduct airstrikes on Hezbollah positions, a very indirect Iranian role is becoming more and more explicit.
Iran's supreme leader sent out a stern warning to Israel, claiming it can never confront the Muslim forces.
America is a definite accomplice of the criminals. In this crime, America's hands is covered with the blood of the oppressed, the children, the ill, and the women up to the elbow. Since it couldn't overpower the fighters, it won't be able to outpower them in the future either. It's taking revenge on the defenseless and oppressed people and throwing bombs on them.
Israel has repeatedly revealed that Iran is the key force behind the coordinated Hamas attacks, prompting the US to back its right to self-defense.
The United States does not seek conflict with Iran. We do not want this war to widen. But if Iran or its proxies attack U.S. personnel anywhere, we will defend our people. We will defend our security.
You've got the leader of Iran coming out and, pretty much confirming common cause with these proxies, as if to suggest that it is Iran, after all, that is the puppet master in all of this.
Will the revelation of Iran's full role in the terror strikes lead to an Israel-Iran war? With Shiv Aroor in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
I was among a very small group of journalists that was in the audience for a screening of 43 minutes of unedited, raw, uncensored body cam, CCTV, traffic camera and mobile footage taken in part by Hamas terrorists. It depicts in the most visceral manner the barbarity of what happened on October the 7th. None of that footage, or at least most of it, isn't being put out in public. Out of 43 minutes, only 90 seconds has actually been released by the Israeli Defense Forces. But I saw all of it and I was taking notes. Here's a full, most detailed description of what I saw. I sat down for 43 minutes to watch unedited body cam, mobile, CCTV, and other footage that was put together by the Israeli Defense Forces of what happened on October the 7th. A grieving but galvanized Israel is bewildered and angry at having to explain to the international community why it is doing what it is doing in Gaza. As a humanitarian crisis looms there, Israel is wondering whether the international focus is shifting away from how it all started. So here, over 43 minutes, I sat to watch what the Israeli Defense Forces had put together. This is where it started.
The first clip opens with the smiling, excited face of a Hamas terrorist in the back of a Toyota pickup truck, waving his AK-47 in the air. With him are 4 others holding tight to the sides of the truck as it speeds along a dusty track. All dressed in black with the signature green Hamas headband. After a few words in Arabic, the man filming the video begins an Allahu Akbar chant and is joined by the others. The second clip, one that the IDF included in 90 seconds of footage that was made public, is a dashcam video taken from a civilian's car. As the driver approaches, he sees armed men on the road. This isn't an unusual sight in a highly militarized Israel. But one of the men on the road waves at the car and then fires right at it. The panicked driver steps on the gas to speed past, but the car is peppered with bullets, cracking the glass. The driver, clearly hit by the time, loses control and the car careens off its path and smashes into a parked SUV. Two Hamas terrorists are then seen venturing into a kibbutz. A black dog, likely a Labrador, appears and runs towards the two Hamas men. The man wearing the body cam fires 3 shots, killing the dog instantly on the track.
The next clip that I saw is almost too terrible, too disturbing to describe. It features a father and his 2 sons. The opening scene is the 3 of them cowering in fear in one of the rooms of their house, which has just been invaded by Hamas terrorists. As they try to escape from that house, 2 terrorists enter the frame and then point blank they execute the father in front of his sons. The blood from his gunshot wound spatters their faces and their bodies, and naked and shivering, they bolt back into the house. Once inside, CCTV cameras capture the 2 brothers wailing, wondering why they are still alive. The elder boy, still a minor, tends to his younger brother, asks if he can see well, both their faces completely covered in blood. One can only imagine their trauma. Outside, a separate CCTV camera captures the mother, who is so far completely ignorant of what has happened, arriving back home with 2 security guards. And when she sees her husband, she simply collapses.
The next picture is a still image. It's a picture of an infant in diapers with 3 gunshot wounds, including 1 in the head. It's an unblurred version of the same image that the Israeli Foreign Ministry released days after the October 7th attack in the wake of the beheaded baby's report from Kibbutz Be'eri. More stills show a completely charred infant, the head of either an infant or a toddler more charred infants, and a dog shot dead in a living room. Two still pictures show an ISIS flag on the floor, followed by pictures of a woman shot dead in a baby playroom and another slumped with gunshot wounds in a laundry room. The next item is the full audio clip of a young Hamas terrorist who phones his parents in Gaza during the attack.
بكلمك من جوال يهودية قتلتها وقتلت جوزها 10 بيدي يابا قتلت 10 يابا 10 بيدي قتلت يابا افتح الوصف شوف كيف قتلت يابا افتح بتدفع عليك وصف قول له وين بروح يابا رجوع بسيب يابا والله 10 قتلت 10 بيدي يابا دمهم على ايدي اعطينا امي
Another home invasion by a group of Hamas terrorists show them entering what appears to be a study. One of the home's occupants is clearly under the table, though it's not clear if he or she is alive or shot earlier. The terrorists chant Allahu Akbar and fire onto the table. One of the terrorists is holding an American M4A1 carbine.
The final sequence of the 43 minutes features a survivor sifting through a field of ash and bone, looking for anything that's familiar. Charred bodies from car to car, rooms filled with mangled corpses, body parts, ashes with burnt organs on them, cars with charred bodies inside them, a skull lying to one side. That is all that is left. And this is what Israel wants the world to see. This is what Israel wants the international community not to forget as it continues to focus, rightly so, on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And then the scene cuts to black. The big question continues to be why any prospective ground invasion by Israel has been delayed so far. The Wall Street Journal and several other outlets report that United States preparations to ensure the safety of US deployments in the West Asian region are paramount. And that's the reason why the United States, apart from deploying 2 aircraft carrier battle groups both in the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf, is also rushing missile defense batteries to bolster its defenses against a possible escalation with Iran. Because if there's one thing that's certain right now, it's this: a ground invasion of Gaza will mean a larger regional conflict. And that's something the United States simply does not have the appetite for.
Tanks rolling into Gaza. Non-stop air raids to punish Hamas. Massive troops deployment. And incursions into Gaza and West Bank. The formidable Israeli war machine is ready for a full-scale invasion of Gaza. But the all-out offensive is under hold. Israel, under immense US pressure, has decided to put brakes on its plan to invade Gaza Strip. The move is aimed at giving precious time to the US to deploy missile defense for its troops and bases positioned in West Asia. US forces in the Gulf are already facing rocket strikes from jihadi groups and need the missile defense system in air, as the attacks will only grow if Israel actually invades. United States is hurrying to deploy nearly a dozen air defense systems to the region to protect US troops deployed there. Israel is also giving time to US to negotiate release of hostages through dialogue.
There's a great deal of conjecture about whether Israel would have gone in earlier, because apart from US pressure itself, let's not forget that the main reason why a big typical ground invasion of the kind that Israel has done in the past is difficult at this time is because of the scale of this hostage crisis. The fact that Hamas has, garnered a kind of military level capability in terms of both offense and defense as it is demonstrating right now. All of these are considerations for Israel.
Despite holding off the ground offensive, Israel is relentless in its attacks. Israeli tanks and armored columns are regularly staging surgical attacks inside Gaza after incursions. Images released by Israel showed tanks entering Gaza and pounding Hamas positions. The IDF tank and infantry struck numerous terrorist cells, infrastructure and anti-tank missile launch posts. Israeli PM Netanyahu detailed Israel's objectives from the current mission.
I
will not elaborate on when, how, or how many. I will also not elaborate on the various calculations we are making, which the public is mostly unaware of. And that is how things should be.
Israel is also mindful of the Herculean challenge of removing civilians from Gaza front in case of a full-scale war, apart from possible large casualties inside Gaza, which may alienate the rest of the world. With Shiv Aroor at the Gaza border, Bureau Report, India Today.
Israel has a highly militarized society with compulsory conscription and military service. It's very difficult to walk any great distance without bumping into personnel who've been part of operations. Yesterday, I bumped into someone, rarely, who's been part of multiple incursions into the Gaza Strip, who served during invasions as well. I spoke to him. Here's what he said. Listen very carefully. It's not a black and white view. As the suspense builds over what's going to happen next in Gaza, here in Israel, public opinion continues to be divided over what Israel should really do next. While I've been reporting in Tel Aviv, I bumped into my friend here, Mikhail. He's a veteran, and there are so many veterans here because Israeli society is highly militarized. There is compulsory conscription. In fact, Mikhail, I hear, even served during the ground invasion of Gaza in 2014. He's been inside Gaza as well, he tells me. So I just wanted to get a sense from someone like him what it's actually like, because very few people know anything really about what goes on inside Gaza, apart from the pictures that are coming out now. Mikhail, thanks first of all for speaking to me and to India today. Tell us a little bit about Gaza. You know, right now the only images we're getting from the inside are images of destruction, and there is a lot of destruction taking place. You've been inside, you've been part of operations. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, last time I've been to Gaza, it was actually almost 20 years ago, at 2004, 5, and actually it really looked like most of the people are really poor. We really even felt sometimes really sorry for the people that live like that, because one of the operations was going to do something and catch a place in vice mayor of Khan Yunis, and then you see something entirely different. 3 stories, lots of refrigerators, plasma TVs, but most of the people really live super poorly. But if you speak about, like population-wise, it looks like a city, lots of buildings. Since it's like a constant war zone for many years, the infrastructure is not so good, and when army forces go in, things will get destructed.
I understand what you're saying, but what are the risks really, for soldiers going in? You were there 20 years ago. I imagine that there are new risks now, but many of the risks would be the same that they were then as well. Urban warfare, the difficulty of narrow lanes, hunting house to house for terrorists, the tunnel network. Was the tunnel network there at that time as well when you were there?
There were tunnels, but there have been quite a lot of time since then. And yes, everything probably, I would say, it's not a good thing to say improved, but everything got more militarized, probably more resources. And we also know that the population is still very poor. Nothing goes to them. People are running out if they can. and we're not happy about it. We still used to believe that we have friends.
Do you think, this time, because of the scale of the, of the death and destruction that happened on October the 7th, Mikhail, Israel feels that it cannot compromise on complete obliteration and destruction of Hamas? Do you think that's achievable with a Gaza operation? Many Hamas leaders are sitting abroad in Qatar, Iran, wherever it is. Do you think Israel can completely finish Hamas this time?
I'm not sure it's only up to us. If you say this is like a broader place and Qatar and other countries are involved, this is supposed to be more a coalition of forces. We do have our local place, and we do have a branch of a very evil force, but there are other places. We also know in Asia, in Afghanistan, in Syria, it's all over the place, and countries need to go together. And I wanted to add something about the last question.
Yes.
Gaza is very densely populated, yes. Everything is done in between streets packed with people. And of course, you just don't shoot people. And you need sometimes even to evacuate and move them out if you're going ground forces. But the mission asking me about, it's too high level for me. Yes, I can sit with you. We can probably sit and think about it for an hour or two.
There are hundreds, thousands of young Israelis who are prepared right now to go into Gaza because they'll be following their orders. This is as far as national security is concerned. Whether it actually happens today, tomorrow, the day after a week, after a few months, that is Israel's decision. Whether a ground operation will happen at all is also another question that has become relevant at this time. What appears unshakable, however, is that Israel believes this is its one opportunity, and it's become imperative that wherever this ends, it has to end with the complete destruction of Hamas. And as I've been reporting here in Israel from different parts of the country, one thing I've always noticed is the great amount of goodwill that India enjoys. India's support for Israel, one of the first countries to explicitly call what happened a terrorist attack, has been widely appreciated. I have a gentleman here who tapped me on the shoulder and said he wanted to thank India directly. Sir, what would you like to say? You want to thank India?
Yeah, I would like to thank very much for the Indian people, which I know from the previous times. I was one of the architects of the Israeli-Indian relationship way back to 81 when Mr. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. And I always told my colleagues there, India is the greatest democracy in the Asia, and Israel is the smallest one. And I really appreciate all the help that India is supporting in a great will. God bless you, India. We love you all. I was in Gujarat when there was the big earthquake, when the Israeli Air Force came and we couldn't land. We had to go around and we have to land in Mumbai, and then we came back. Indian people, we love you and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. So, what you've heard this gentleman say right now, I can tell you is not uncommon. Everywhere that I've traveled, I've seen people pretty much just grab me and say, "Are you from India? We love India, and we thank India for the stand it has taken." It's pretty amazing in a war zone to hear about your country in this manner. If there's one factor that is influencing pretty much everything militarily speaking in Gaza, it is the hostage crisis. I'm reporting here from near the Freedom Square of Tel Aviv, where the family and friends of over 200 hostages have been collecting every day. Today, on day 20, they've upped the ante, they've raised temperatures and are demanding an immediate prisoner exchange or a ceasefire. At least 30 children, 210 people in all, continuing to be in Hamas captivity. I saw footage released by the IDF yesterday in a screening where those hostages being taken was seen by select few journalists for the first time. This is a crisis that is influencing every aspect of what we're looking at. They may be just faces on a wall here, on the wall of the kidnapped. But 20 days after the Hamas struck Israel and took hundreds of Israelis hostage, this wall has become a national symbol. We understand that to mark 20 days, there's going to be an enormous protest right here in the heart of Israel's Tel Aviv city. But each of these names rings out. They're probably just strangers to so many, apart from their families and relatives. But each one of these names has now become symbolic of how long it's taking for this hostage crisis to be resolved. Let me just read out some of these names in the hope that at some place they will be heard. Oron Dina, 54 years old. Jasmine Dina Koch, 53 years old. Omar Shentov, 20 years old. Gomi Gonan, 23 years old. Erez Calvis, 12 years old. Ite Rege, 18 years old. Many of these posters are written in Hebrew. Maya Rege, 21 years old. Nizam Ribstein, 19 years old. Many of their families have been visiting this wall on a daily basis. I've seen a lot of people, citizens, common citizens, coming here with rolls of sellotape to make sure that these posters don't come unstuck. Out of respect, to give even these posters their dignity. 20 days is a very long time. 2 people were released by Hamas a couple of days ago, and 2 more people were released right before. That's just 4, but 210 continue to be in the captivity of Hamas. And it is all these faces that you see here on this day. People as young, 12 people as young as 8, as 9, 51, like Ravid Bat, seen here in a picture. Son, Omar Yufra, is 22 years old. He's an Israeli American among several other American citizens who are understood to be in the captivity of Hamas. This is a situation that is not only representative of the families, of the hostages themselves, but it also answers a question that a lot of people have been asking for a long time, which is, why isn't Israel moving into Gaza? Why hasn't an invasion taken place? What is happening with that ground operation? This is the reason. This is the reason why Israel doesn't have the luxury of simply burning its tanks in Gaza. No military operation is simple. No military operation is black and white. But this one is especially painted in shades of grey because the lives of each of these people, their families, their sentiments, is of immense priority to how Israel actually experienced. The fact is that a huge number of moving parts for Israel, operationally speaking, also emotionally speaking. There's a massive amount of pressure from families. And remember, these are families who in normal times would have supported military operations. But when this crisis comes home, when your people are hostage, some of them want a ceasefire because they believe a military operation will only endanger the lives of the young. They remain in absolute pain, but they're hoping for peace. Here's hoping this crisis can be resolved very soon. I have with me Annabelle, who is a friend of one of the persons who is still a hostage. You can see him in this picture here. Ofer Angel is 17 years old. Annabelle, I just saw you distributing stickers, I think, to motorists in Gaza. What does that say?
It says, Ophir, we're waiting for you back home.
Tell us about what's going through your mind. It's been 20 days. 20 days is a very long time.
So Ophir is 17 years old, and he actually went to visit his girlfriend. It's a love story of 2 teenagers. He's from the north, and he went to spend the weekend with his girlfriend. Just a typical teenager love story, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And he was kidnapped together with his girlfriend's father. We don't know where he is. We don't know his situation. For the past 3 weeks, he is held hostage by Hamas.
From the rumbling Gaza frontline.
Israel is not backing off, not even an inch, not even for a minute.
To the first broadcast from the West Bank.
India today is reporting from Palestine, from the West Bank, and tension. The situation remains extremely tense.
From the exploding Israel-Hezbollah crossfire to the Viper's nest in Lebanon.
You can see tracers going. Continuous fire, continuous.
We report the Israel-Hamas war firsthand.
Israel is regularly bombarding South Lebanon.
India's most watched war reporters on India Today. You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company. From the rumbling Gaza frontline.
Israel is not backing off, not even an inch, not even for a minute.
To the first broadcast from the West Bank.
India today is reporting from Palestine, from the West Bank, and tension. The situation remains extremely tense.
From the exploding Israel-Hezbollah crossfire to the Viper's nest in Lebanon.
You can see tracers going. Continuous fire, continuous.
We report the Israel-Hamas war firsthand.
Israel is regularly bombarding South Lebanon.
India's most watched war reporters on India Today.
जब भी बर्न करते हैं तो उसमें कई तरह के स्मोक पार्टिकल और टॉक्सिक गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, क्योंकि ये कंप्लीट बर्निंग नहीं होता है, प्रॉपर ऑक्सीडेशन नहीं होता है। और जब भी एक सही तरीके से कोई बर्निंग नहीं होती है तो छोटे छोटे पार्टिकल्स, पार्टिकुलेट मैटर और स्मोक और हार्मफुल गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, जिसको हम इनहेल करते हैं। खासकर जो लोग बहुत प्रोन है, रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम या इम्यूनिटी सिस्टम जिनका वीक है, तो उनको सांस संबंधित बीमारियां बढ़ जाती हैं, आँखों में जलन हो जाती है। सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि ह्यूमन को ही प्रॉब्लम है, जो एनिमल्स हैं आसपास के इलाकों में उनकी सेहत पर भी इसका दुष्प्रभाव पड़ता है।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
Above the roar of the constant air strikes are these deafening cries. No food, no water, no parents. The barren street are all they have. Off the streets, life is worse. They may have survived for now, but for how long? Hospitals are on the brink. The threat of medical supplies running out, getting more real by the day. In another part of Gaza, mothers run towards their sleeping infants, hoping to keep them safe. Others are not as lucky. They carry the heaviest burden of tiny bodies. War is the biggest destroyer of lives. These children of war, however, are being told to be hopeful, to spot the ray of light in this hellfire. There is, after all, no escape. Bureau Report, India Today.
The attacks on a multiplicity of kibbutzes, agricultural and other communes on the front lines of Gaza became one of the most symbolic stories of the cruelty of the Hamas on October the 7th. India Today's Rajesh Pawar visited the Kibbutz Be'eri to bring us this harrowing report of what Hamas terrorists did there to the people who live there.
There is smell of death everywhere here. It's impossible to stand here. The stench of blood, of everything burnt down. Here you see behind me, there's blood on the floor everywhere, on the bed everywhere there's blood. And what we have been told here is there were 4 children who were brought here along with their father and mother, and they were killed in front of their parents. You can see everywhere, and it's impossible to stand, and there are bullet marks here on the window. This used to be a happy house of a happy family of parents with their 4 children, and everything has been destroyed, and these people have left graffiti like this on the walls of the people here, some of which means death to the Jews. And this is not an isolated story. Stories like this, every kibbutz in this area has stories like this. More than 100 people were killed in this kibbutz, and 50 are still missing. They do not know what happened to them, but probably they could not even find the burnt bodies. And the tactics these Hamas terrorists used, if the houses were locked, if the shelters were locked, first thing they did was, if the thing did not break with fire from the rifles, they opened the gases, the cooking gas in the house, and put some petrol and put it on fire. So everybody will either come out or will die inside, and anybody who came out were then killed with the bullets or beheaded. We have shown photos of beheaded soldiers. Children were beheaded, children were burnt alive. And this is a story of many houses in this kibbutz. Imagine lovely garden, how people must be sitting here, what life they must have had, and what these innocent souls had done to these Hamas terrorists. And there are stories of horror from every kibbutz, every place here. I'm right now in front of another row of burnt houses in this kibbutz. You can see here how these houses have been destroyed, as if they have planted big bombs inside these houses, but these are not bombs. They have used cooking gas, which is used for cooking. They put this gas on inside, and whichever house they could not break into, they put fire after opening this cooking gas inside. So this is the effect. It's like a big explosion, and everybody inside died and probably burned alive. And this story we have seen all over. There are many houses which are burnt like this, which have been destroyed like this in this kibbutz.
And on India Today, as we've continued to campaign, it is innocent children continuing to be caught in the crossfire. Don't forget that children are continuing to die in Gaza, but there are also at least 30 children who are held captive as hostages by Hamas terrorists over there. The effort is on to bring them out, and we continue to campaign, Save the Children. Watch this report.
While Dado was at work, broadcasting live images from the war-torn zone, when he heard the most devastating news. His 2 children, a grandchild, and his wife were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Heartbreaking images emerged of the grief-stricken father at the morgue in Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, holding the unrecognizable bodies of his 7-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son. His 2-year-old grandson too has died, while his infant granddaughter escaped. Dado's family was reportedly in the United Nations vetted Nusairat refugee camp in central Gaza, which was ironically called a safe area. The toll this war has exacted on children is immeasurable. Over the last few weeks, thousands of children have been pulled from the wreckage of destroyed buildings hit by airstrikes in Gaza, many of them unrecognizable by their injuries. Distressed parents are seen stamping their children with black ink to better identify them. A Gazan father here marks his children with blue bracelets. 40-year-old Ali Daba bought his family members blue and white string bracelets, one to wear on each wrist. His way of recognizing his children if tragedy strikes. Almost every child in Gaza Strip has been exposed to deeply distressing events and trauma, marked by relentless attacks. Parents are finding ways to calm their children. A distressed mother claims her 2 children, aged 8 and 2, have started to vomit after airstrikes and are bedwetting, both responses to heightened fear. Children who have survived and received treatment face severe shortages of daily necessities like food, water, medicine. UNICEF has called for humanitarian access to the Palestinian enclave, where half the population is below age 18. Calling for an urgent ceasefire, UNICEF says 2,360 children in Gaza have been killed in less than 3 weeks, with 5,364 children injured. More than 400 children are reportedly either killed or injured daily in these unrelenting attacks inside the Palestinian enclave. Bureau Report, India Today.
Thank you for watching this special broadcast. In a few hours from now, I will be reporting from one of the closest kibbutzes to the Gaza front line. The next time you see me, I'll be live from the kibbutz Holit. See you then. Thanks for watching. The news continues here on India Today.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable, and it has to stop now. I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 32 and minimum 19 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 34 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 32 and minimum 23 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 29 and minimum 20 degrees. Chennai, maximum 32 and minimum 25 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 29 and minimum 18 degrees.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
Heartbreaking images continue to pour in from Gaza, of houses destroyed, of families broken apart. The children who survived the aerial strikes are considered the lucky ones. But are they really lucky? There are countless stories of children now orphaned with nowhere to go and nobody to care for them. These twins in Gaza, Wateen and Ahmed, had just finished breastfeeding and were put to sleep when an Israeli strike hit their home at around 2 a.m. in Gaza's Khan Yunis on 19th October. Their mother was killed instantly, but the twins survived and have now been separated. Wateen with her aunt being treated for injuries at the hospital, while Ahmed sent to stay with relatives. While 2-month-old Wateen remains in hospital, her brother has been sent far away. It could take years to ensure they live under the same roof again. Born together, but separated by war. There are unfortunately many such incidents of children suffering the consequences of this war. 18-year-old Dima Alamdani and her family were among hundreds of thousands of Gaza residents fleeing the south to avoid the constant onslaught of Israeli airstrikes in the north. With nowhere else to go, family of 17 settled in a temporary shelter in Khan Yunis with hope that they had found temporary sanctuary. But overnight on 17th October, massive bombing at the shelter led to 13 of their relatives, including her parents and siblings, to perish. Alamdani has had to grow up overnight into an adult, having to identify the bodies of her immediate family at a local morgue. This teenager has no time to mourn. She now has to care for her brother and 2 younger cousins who survived the bombing with her. These children have lost everything, their home, their family, and now facing a daunting task of rebuilding their life with nothing and nobody to help. Bureau Report, India Today.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
The bold look of Kohler. Titan Eye Plus, expert who cares. Dulux Velvet Touch feels like home.
before